Welcome back to the Founders Leadership Operating System. This is episode 3, the North Star metric, the alignment tool most companies get wrong. If every department has its own goals, you don't have alignment, you have silos. And if you just give one goal for the entire company, each department may not understand how they can impact it, and you get chaos. So in this episode, we're going to highlight a few of the key ideas from chapters 7, 8, and 9 of the Founders Leadership Operating System Guide. To go deeper and see the full leadership frameworks, insights, and real-world examples, be sure to read the guide. It's designed to deliver practical lessons you can apply immediately to strengthen your leadership operating system and drive meaningful impact in your organization. This episode is going to be the first one where we really go through in detail the right way to do things, but also the wrong way to do things. All right, let's get into Chapter 7, the North Star metric, aligning the entire company. So if each team builds their own metrics in a vacuum, you don't get alignment, you get silos. So what you do instead is you create a North Star metric, some unifying target that brings everybody together. And you're going to create a shared scorecard. Obviously, it'll have a North Star metric that everybody supports. It could be revenue, new revenue, retention rates, users, all sorts of different metrics, whatever they are for your business. There'll be a short set of company-level key performance indicators, or KPIs. And then there'll be department share scorecards that tie directly back to the company KPIs. And there's a rule here that's kind of unwritten, but I'll say it. If a metric doesn't directly support the company's North Star or the KPIs, it doesn't belong on the scorecard. Now, creating a shared scorecard focused on a single North Star metric will align goals and metrics cross-functionally. This will depoliticize the decision-making because every decision must align to the overarching goals of the business. It'll also help prevent silos from forming and prevent leaders from thinking about their own department first versus what's best for the company. Also, it'll eliminate some departments getting special treatment or being allowed to achieve their goals, but the company does not get the business outcomes desired or required. All right, so how do you do this? Well, keep metrics simple, actionable, and measurable. I have a lot of experience with startups, and what I can tell you is the best teams of startups use Pareto's law on everything. A coherent strategy defines what you will not do or what is not important. Said another way, if you have a dozen goals and even more metrics, you don't have a strategy, you have a throw it at the wall and see what sticks approach. So the 80-20 rule, or Pareto's law, is very simple and very practical because it basically assumes, and this has been proven out in practically every business I've ever seen, any department, any data analytics, it just works consistently. And that is 20% of your customers will drive 80% of your revenue, or 20% of your products will drive 80% of your revenue, or 20% of your specific actions out of all the actions you take will drive 80% of the results. So the 80-20 rule is very powerful. It's also factorial. You can use it many times in a row, and the 80-20 rule continues to hold true. So in a startup, you must leverage the 80-20 rule in everything you do because you don't have all the people or the capital or the time to do everything. Startups die by trying to do too much, chase too many of the wrong opportunities, or show traction by winning small opportunities that don't matter. Startups must manufacture momentum from nothing. The way that you do that is through careful planning, laser focus, and getting everyone in the company working together. And you'll see this in another chapter on One Team, One Goal. My best practice and the best practice recommendations from everything else you've ever seen on this topic is to choose no more than 3 metrics per department, measured monthly. Metric that someone owns and can move through daily action. Every metric must have one owner, one definition, and one source of truth. And the source of truth is important. There can be no debate about what the numbers are or where they came from. Next is use a company-wide rhythm of review and transparency. A shared scorecard is useless unless it's reviewed constantly. So elite organizations use things like weekly team-level scorecard reviews, monthly or quarterly cross-functional reviews or quarterly business reviews, shared dashboards that are accessible to everyone, red, yellow, green status tracking, the list goes on. All of this creates a disciplined, aligned, and early detection system for problems. Okay, the next thing you want to do is connect the dots. Scorecards must influence behavior, or people will ignore them. Tie metrics to leadership discussions and resource allocation. Priorities for the next sprint or quarter. Rewards and recognition for high performance. Correction plans for red metrics. Financial planning, and of course, goals and compensation. The difference between average teams and elite teams is simple. Elite teams have one North Star metric with scorecards and KPIs that tie to that metrics. Those are used to drive decisions, accountability, rewards and recognition, not just decorate PowerPoint slides. That does nothing. Average or sub-average teams don't even have North Star metrics. They'll announce a department goal or two, perhaps a few key initiatives, maybe get some shared KPIs or scorecards up and running, but not all, and then never really complete the process, review the dashboards, or hold anybody accountable. Let's move on to Chapter 8, which is practical application of the one team, one goal, one system of accountability. I'm going to set the framework up here. We're going to go through an imaginary company example, and then we're going to cover the right way to do it and the wrong way. Let's move on to how we lock in and lock down your North Star. We're going to do this through the implementation of a single system of equally weighted accountability. Setting that foundation is very hard to do because of pre-existing experiences out of the companies or pre-existing biases towards the value of specific departments. The founders and early leaders at the company must implement one system of accountability that's applied consistently with equal weight to every department. Nobody gets to hide. Again, I know this sounds super obvious, but people are people and they often struggle to implement this in real life. Let's go through an imaginary company example. Imagine that it is November and the annual plan for next year is complete. In the current year, the company is on pace to reach $8 million in revenue. The company believes that it has found its product market fit. It has recently raised an A round of funding to start to scale out the company in a thoughtful, meaningful way. All things look good. Star metric for next year is $20 million in revenue. To achieve these revenue goals, the following metrics must be hit. Product and engineering must deliver specific user-requested features each quarter as per the quarterly plan. Time to market is mission critical. Marketing must hit XYZ percentage of pipeline contribution. Operations must hit XYZ percentage of contract cycle time. Channels will contribute XYZ percentage of revenue that was sourced by the channel. Customer success will obviously need to hit their revenue targets from the installed customer base, and sales will need to hit the new logo revenue targets. I put these into a table by quarter. So you'll see on the left column, finance revenue target, and product engineering, and marketing, then operations, then channels, then customer success, and sales new logo. Then I've got Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 across the columns on the right. And you'll see in there that the finance revenue target for Q1 is 10 million, for Q2 it's 12 million, for Q3 it's 15 million, and for Q4 it's 20 million. You'll see the 70-30 weighting of new logo versus expansion target. You'll see that marketing has to hit certain pipeline contribution goals, operations got their goals, channels has their goals, customer success has their goals by quarter, and of course sales has their new logo goals. But let's get into the first issue. For the leaders, beware that timing is everything. The timing within the quarter of when each of these milestones are delivered really truly does matter. Here are some examples. Product and engineering can still hit their Q1 milestone if they deliver feature 1 on March 31st. That meets the milestone date that was committed, but practically eliminates the ability for sales to capture revenue from feature 1 in Q1. My recommendation is that if a company is trying to capture revenue in Q1, the feature is released in the prior quarter or at the very latest within the first 4 weeks of the current quarter. Anything released after week 4 in Q1 dramatically reduces the ability of sales to close any revenue in Q1. If product and engineering are not releasing just a feature, but an entirely new product, those lead times increase. Smart leaders should plan for all product launches that take 6 months. The first 90 days to announce the new product, conduct demand gen program, and do lots of education in the market and the channels. With the following 90 days allowing for enterprises to conduct proof of concepts, business value assessments, and use case validation. Sales will start in this second set of 90 days, but they won't be much. Speaking of forecasting revenue for new products, here's a conservative framework to use based on decades of enterprise sales actual results. So 90 days before launch, you consider this kind of a pre-launch soft period. So don't count those first 90 days in your year 1 revenue forecast. Just think that 90 days before launch, you're prepping and getting everything ready. And then in Q1, you're going to plan for 10% of the year 1 forecasted revenue. In Q2, you'll plan for 20% of the year 1 forecasted revenue. In Q3, you'll predict or forecast 30% of the year 1 forecasted revenue. And then finally in Q4, you'll forecast 40% of the year 1 forecasted revenue. So, to summarize, 90 days before launch, you're doing all the things you need to do to get ready internally, and you might be able to do some things externally. In Q1, you plan for 10% of the year revenue. In Q2, you plan for 20%. In Q3, you plan for 30%. And in Q4, you plan for 40%. Those are very realistic revenue ramps in B2B sales. Now let's assume marketing launches a new program in Q1. All marketing programs have a lead time from the moment they launch until the first set of results come in. In a company that sells to the enterprise market, smart leaders plan for a launch of a new marketing program to take 90 days just to get the word out, with results starting to come in the second set of 90 days. Okay, so that gives you some framework to think about timing, how long things take to launch, etc. Now that this imaginary company has been established and you understand some of the assumptions that are underneath it and are aware of some of the lead time challenges, how do you apply this concept of equally weighted system of accountability and share scorecards to these various real-world scenarios we see every day? All right, let's look at the easy one. Scenario 1. The company hits the quarterly and annual targets, and each department achieves their quarterly goals. This is fantastic. Seldom happens, but it's possible. My advice is take the wins, celebrate, reward, and recognize, but still do a deep dive to see what might be lurking below. Scenarios 2 and 3 are much more common. We can do scenario 2 first, and then we'll do scenario 3. In scenario 2, the board of directors demanded a $20 million revenue target, and the company comes in at $16 million for the year. And you might say, well, where did this $20 million revenue target come from? Well, this target most often comes from the founders' 3-year forecast they use in their pitch deck to raise the A round. And the reason founders do this is to increase the valuation of the company to reduce the amount of equity ownership dilution they have to give up. This is one of the deadliest culture killers for startups on the planet. So the company misses unrealistic revenue targets, but still doubles the business. Remember, they went from $8 million the prior year to $60 million. People might only earn 50% of their variable compensation. Sales, marketing, engineering, everybody. People work their tails off. Every department truly executes and does well, but they feel like a failure and morale craters. Then the CEO gets on the all-hands calls and tells the company 3 things. Hey, the venture capitalists and the board love us. They believe this company is the shining star in the portfolio. Our growth rate is at or near the top of the portfolio of all their companies. And, we set stretch but achievable growth targets. And while we miss the financial plan targets, everyone should feel proud for what we achieved. What? So the employees are left feeling confused and trust begins to erode. Morale takes another hit, in addition to the one they received in their paycheck at quarter end. Their questions really are this. It's simple. If we're doing so well, why aren't we getting paid? By the way, who set these goals? What were the assumptions behind those plans? And why can't I get a straight answer from leadership? All I get is corporate speak. So lesson for founders and leaders. Raise money on realistic revenue plans, even if this means giving up some additional equity on the Series A raise. I know this is counterintuitive, I get it. However, you are building a long-term sustainable company, and you can't do it alone. You will need people, and those people are going to have to go all in and work their tails off to make this company successful. Crushing their morale through unrealistic goal setting is something you can avoid. Raising money can be super exciting, and it can be company saving. It can also end up transforming or even killing the culture that has been created because unrealistic goals have been driven down the throats of the organization by the board or the investors. I've seen this happen time after time after time. And it all comes down to the CEO and the founding leaders who raised that money. All right, let's go to scenario 3. The sales leader did a bottoms-up revenue forecast that totaled $16 million. Assumptions were clearly spelled out how they got to this number. Key assumptions were that 1, marketing did not generate a high enough volume of enterprise-level leads to make a material difference in the quarter or the year. 2, product and engineering would be 6 months late on all roadmap initiatives. 3, revenue per head, ramp time for new hires, average deal size, and many more assumptions would be based on actuals. Yes, the team would have programs in place to improve all those metrics, but they were not used to commit to a higher revenue target above $16 million. If those worked, they would deliver an overachievement. Okay, so that sounds good. That's how we got to the $16 million number. But in the annual planning process, here's what happens. Product engineering commits to hitting those quarterly milestones. And as pressure is applied from the founders, the sales leaders reluctantly agreed to a $20 million target. But with the proviso that product engineering would hit those feature product and release dates, and they also hoped that marketing would do some amazing things they hadn't done in the past, but maybe could do now. You can guess where this is going. Product engineering do not hit their quarterly milestones, and it is not even close. They are 6 months behind each of those quarterly feature or product release milestones. Marketing must generate demand on a product that has not had any significant improvements or delivered customer requested features for several quarters. So guess what? They're not successful. Now here's what's even worse. Customer success gets hammered as retention and satisfaction rates in the install base plummet. Customers have been waiting for features and functionality that have been promised for maybe months, quarters, or a year. Some stay, but some flatline their spend because they can't use more of the product. And sadly, yes, some leave. Of course, the pressure now is on sales to make up for this with new logo, and it is so intense that people quit, give up, or suffer in silence. Salespeople are put on performance improvement plans, or PIPs, while no one else in the company is. It's a sales problem, right? Sales and customer success are absolutely drilled with deep dive inspections on every metric possible. This scrutiny, or colonoscopy as I like to call it, is brutal. Meanwhile, marketing probably feels okay, even pretty good, because they hit some of the metrics they thought they would hit. Now, look, I know this is not the right way to run marketing. Most marketing leaders don't do it, but it's a natural tendency because some people do this. Product and engineering simply shrug it off by telling the founders and the leaders, man, this product development stuff is hard. We'll do better next time. Then the founders why the culture is cratering and there's a divide between sales, marketing, and product engineering. Now, before you attack my sales lens view on all this, let me hit you with this. And I've said this for years in multiple companies. Everyone in the company directly and indirectly impacts sales. Everyone needs to own the sales number. All right, the solution to all of this madness is that one system of equally weighted accountability needs to be put in place. The founders and leaders must apply this one system to all departments equally. All founders and executives should be bought into the principle that everyone owns the sales number and that the ultimate success of the company depends on each department achieving the goals in the time frame committed. Full stop. If only sales owns the sales number, you will never have a culture of one team, one goal. Yes, of course, sales is naturally the first place to go for why do we miss the revenue target inspection. I get it. Sales probably has the most metrics of any department in the company, apart from marketing. So inspecting sales is a natural go-to for founders and early leaders. However, when the sales department gets the deep accountability dive and other departments are left virtually untouched, this reflects poorly on leadership. It shows naive thinking of an inexperienced leadership team. This certainly does not reflect true systems thinking required to build a sustainable and scalable company. All right, how do we correct this problem for scenarios 2 and 3? Well, this is a two-part answer. The first part, which we will close out this chapter with, is about radical candor, and the second part has its own standalone chapter, which is the next episode. So the strategy to recover from both scenarios 2 and 3, starting off here, are the same. Radical candor. Culture is created or destroyed in the company's moments of truth. This is one such moment. So here's what the leaders should do on the next all-hands call, starting with the CEO. This is what radical candor at the leadership level looks like. This is how you bring the traits and the values I mentioned earlier to light. This is how you model the behavior you keep telling everybody is so important. Admit the mistake. Take ownership of it. Say it out loud and apologize. The CEO admits that she set sales targets that were too aggressive based on the company's stage of development, the adoption of the company's solution in the markets they serve, the fact that there may be alternative or substitute solutions, and aggressive competitors. A possible next step is to reset the goals to the proper level, which I have seen done, and it is incredibly powerful. Next, the product and engineering leader admits that their organization failed to deliver the products and features that they committed to. They acknowledge publicly that this was a key factor, not the only one, but a key factor nevertheless in missing the revenue target. They commit to fixing those issues in the next quarter to get back on track. The marketing leader admits the organization failed to deliver the percentage of pipeline contribution they committed to. Like product engineering, this was also a key factor in missing the number, and they commit to fixing those issues they identified in the next quarter to get back on track. Of course, the sales leader does the same thing. The sales leader does the same admission of mistakes and challenges for sales. They highlight what they did not do or areas they need to improve on and commit to fixing those areas as fast as possible to get back on track in the next quarter. Take a moment and let all that sink in. When was the last time that you saw specifically a C-leader do this? Well, I've seen it and lived it with the CEO and other C-level leaders, and I've done it myself. It is perhaps the most powerful example of modeling the culture you want as a leader. Talk about buying from the rank and file, you got it, and then some. But when you don't do it, you've got problems. Now, one of the great benefits of this process is that it cuts the legs out from underneath the typical sales complaint that they are held to a higher level of accountability than any other department. Every department is held to one system of equally weighted accountability. Do you see how this starts to build a feeling that we're all in this together? One team, one goal? Each functional leader should then end their presentation on a high note for the quarter, explain the programs and process improvements they're putting in place to solve the problems experienced in the prior quarter, and then end with their personal commitment to do whatever it takes to deliver what they promised. Now that would be an inspiring, motivating, energizing, and totally unique all-hands meeting. It would literally bring everyone, and I mean everyone, closer together than ever before. People will talk about this meeting for a long time and share the amazing culture they have at this company with their family and friends. Your culture will once again become the amazing and only long-term sustainable competitive advantage. In Chapter 9, though, I want to really lock it down by tying in the concept not just of one team, one goal, but how compensation can fuel or crash your culture. Because you've got to tie compensation to that equally weighted system of accountability. If everyone is measured differently based on their own department's goals, and accountability is applied inconsistently, you don't have a team, you have silos. A North Star metric supported by a unified KPI scorecard and equally weighted accountability aligns effort, builds trust, and eliminates internal competition. But you need to tie compensation to it. Compensation always sends a message. Pay isn't neutral. It either reinforces the culture you want or undermines it. Every structure, bonus, and exception teaches your team what you truly value. If the culture is doing well, as covered in the prior videos, but people are not making money, your compensation plan is sending a terrible message. It is telling people that even when the company wins, that people don't. Misaligned compensation also creates cultural chaos. When pay, rewards, and expectations don't match the vision, mission, and values, people start believing in the vision. They follow the incentives, not just your words. And by the way, morale can't pay the bills. Equity, fairness, and transparency are cultural fuel. When people understand how pay works and why rewards are earned, morale surges. When they don't, resentment becomes the operating system. Read that again. Listen to that again. High performers need to be differentiated, clearly. Equal pay for unequal performance destroys your best people. A culture that wants excellence must reward excellence. Your compensation plan must reward behavior, not just results. Hitting a number the wrong way creates cultural rot. Reward both what people achieve and how they achieve it. It's not performance or culture, it's performance and culture. Leaders who bend the system for favors destroy trust. Every exception for one person, one team, or one department becomes an expectation for everyone. Consistency builds a culture, exceptions burn it down. If one department is not held accountable and they get paid when others are not, you are burning down your culture. Your money is not where your mouth is. So here's my recommendation for your one team, one goal compensation plan strategy. Every non-sales department should have 50% of their compensation tied to the company North Star metric and 50% to the departmental, individual team, and quarterly KPI tied to that North Star metric they committed to. Note, you can change this percentage of 50% to tailor to your unique situation, but keep the framework. Since most companies have their North Star metric tied to some variation on revenue, let's use this as a placeholder for the example. So here are the benefits of tying 50% of the compensation plan to company revenue performance and 50% specifically to the department or team level, things that they can control and they have to deliver on themselves. Well, one, it forces true company-wide alignment. When every department, engineering, product, customer success, support, finance, marketing, everybody has compensation plans tied to revenue, everyone rows in the same direction. No more, that's not my job. Revenue growth becomes everyone's job, and they have specific things they got to do to earn it. It eliminates the sales owns the revenue fallacy. Revenue is earned through product quality, customer retention, support speed, uptime, and cross-functional execution. Revenue is the output of the entire company, not just sales. It builds a culture of shared accountability. People don't rise to expectations, they rise to the compensation plan. Tying half of pay to revenue that they can control signals that your work contributes to revenue and your pay reflects that truth. It obviously reduces silos and internal politics and rewards the behaviors that actually grow a business. The shared revenue component crushes the whole my team versus their team mindset and creates a unified mission. Now, on the other side of the compensation plan equation, here are the benefits of tying 50% of the compensation plan to specific departmental, individual, team quarterly KPIs. It creates clear, measurable quarterly execution discipline. The 50% KPI portion drives focus on doing what they said they would, improving the metrics they would own, and hitting quarterly OKRs, KPIs, programs, processes, and initiatives that they are in control of. It strengthens cross-functional collaboration and builds a performance culture instead of a participation culture. Revenue growth requires cross-team coordination. Individual, department, team, and person goals tie their daily actions to the success of their department and those company-wide revenue targets. This will drive the teams to stop throwing work over the wall and start solving problems together. So this 50-50 model says, show up, not enough. Be busy, not enough. Attend meetings, not enough. Are you adding value to the business? Are you hitting the goals or metric that you said you would? Are you giving the other departments in the company what they need when they need it? You improve your business or you don't earn the full compensation. This creates a culture of execution, excellence, and accountability. These department KPIs or milestones by quarter are in the individual leader's control. They can't point the finger at someone else. All right, let's wrap this episode up. We focus on a number of things that separate a lead organization from average one, but the big one is alignment. We talked about establishing a North Star metric, aligning departments to shared scorecards, and creating a system where compensation plans reinforce collaboration instead of silos. Because when incentives, accountability, and metrics are misaligned, culture breaks. Teams compete with each other instead of working together, and companies lose momentum internally long before they lose it in the market. If you want to create the right leadership operating system or transform the one you have, please download Leadership 3.0, the Founders Leadership Operating System from the YouTube channel. All right, I hope this episode opened your eyes to some self-induced wounds that you can clearly avoid. The next episode is going to be a big one. It's probably going to go viral because this is the cultural problem that destroys more startups than any other. It's the moment when leadership starts blaming one department for everything, and that's usually sales. In this next episode, we're going to talk about one of the most dangerous leadership myths in startups, and that is that sales is always the problem. And as we just described in excruciating detail, that is a fallacy. That is a hypocrisy, and that is a sign of an inexperienced leadership team about to drive their company into the ditch. I'll see you on the next episode.